Welcome, Eyvind, to the Argetic website and pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Discord and this new monster, Degenerations, after 9 years of silence in full length. So tell me, what were the reasons for this delay first?
That's a good question. Uh, you know, uh, Part of the reason is that we have been switching guitarists. So for Dystopics, we had a guy called Espen.
Right.
And then when Oscillations came out, Espen unfortunately had quit for personal reasons. And then Håvard joined. And then after Oscillations, Håvard quit. So we had to get another one. That was Dimitri, who is with us now and who is on the Degenerations album. So that is part of why it took so long. But I guess the rest of the answer is that we are kind of slow, and there's a lot of stuff going on in everyone's lives, and also the music. It doesn't really write itself. So it's not like we meet up and jam. We try to write everything down quite meticulously, and it takes time. So a combination of those factors, I guess, is why we've been silent for so long.
Okay, good. So, and what did you decide to mix jazz, progressive, dissonant elements into the extreme metal? Because it's a very different way to see that metal with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I guess it is. I mean, it wasn't really something that we decided to do. It was just the way it came out. So when we started making music together back in around 2000, I guess we were still trying to find our way, right? And on the first demo, you can hear that it's really three different people writing songs their own way, and then it kind of fused together and blended our influences. And for some reason, it came out like this, and it wasn't a conscious decision or something we talked about ever. It just that's just what comes out, I guess. And it's people always say that they kind of write the music that they would like to hear themselves. I'm not sure that this is what applies here. It's more like, at least for my own part, I write the kind of music that is in me. It's when I write stuff, this is what comes out.
Okay. So all Discord cover arts from Doomscapes to
Yeah,
Degenerations were done by Sindre Foss Shanke. So
Skunke. Yeah.
Skanke. So when you think a new album, do you let Sindre play with or draw with his imagination, listen to music, or do you give him some guidelines, some ideas or sketches that they can find an abstract and visceral meaning into discovered?
It has been a little bit of both, actually. But for this time around, we actually came and visited him at his place where he makes all his art. And he showed us his wide selection of paintings and said, you can use whichever you want, or I can make a new one for you. And we actually found this one, which is on the front of Degenerations now. And I just thought that this is the perfect one. We'll go with this one. So this time around, that was what happened. Actually, he had already made it, and we went for it.
Okay, so I've been seeing a detail into Discord full length, especially Discography, and with the name too, that all these productions and the name begin with the letter D. Is that a special reason to use this letter in a full length productions of Discord, or maybe it's just a matter of coincidence, perhaps?
Uh, Well, for the last one, it was not a coincidence because we felt that we had done it, so we wanted to follow up on that. But for the first two, yes, it was a coincidence, and now we kind of wanted to go with the theme. And there's another theme as well. I don't know if you noticed, but that is that there are all plural words, right?
Yes.
So it's
yes.
yeah. It's Doomscapes and Dystopics and Oscillations
Degenerations.
and Degenerations. So it's not just one, and that is a conscious decision. That it's not just one single thing. This record doesn't represent one single thing, but it's a multitude of things going in different directions within a theme. And that has been the way with all the others as well. So I think that the plurality of it fits very well with what we're doing.
Okay, okay, okay. Another detail into the into the band's discography is that Doomscape was released by H Runner Music.
Yeah.
Then this topic was released by No Posers Please Records. And now this degeneration is released by Transcending Obscurity Records. Is perhaps something, is there a problem with Discord, with the labels to change a lot of things constantly? And what is, and does this sense makes you more underground band? Because many people think that, according to the fans, when a band changes a lot of labels, they're more underground than mainstream.
For this time around, let me start in that end. Then we didn't really know which label to go with, and we sent out some feelers and trying to figure out which label would be best for us, basically, and got a few good responses from several people, but in the end we figured out that the things that Transcending Obscurity could offer was what we were looking for, basically at the level we're at. But previously with Edge Runner for Doomscapes, that company actually went bankrupt, so they were no more when time came to do the next album. And at that point, we were talking to Agonia, and the plan was to release with them for Dystopics. But then, well, we had some not so good experience and a lot of delays, and some friends of us had experienced things that were not that good. But that led us to decide to basically release it ourselves. So No Posters Please was the label of our drummer, Hans-Jørgen, who ran that label for many years, actually. So that's why we ended up doing it that way, and it was kind of coincidental, but yeah. And I guess we have remained in the underground. That is true, probably for many reasons.
Okay. And what is your opinion about Kunal from Transcending Obscurity Records? Is there a good job? What do you think about his form support?
Up till now, it has been very good. He has been very supportive, open to ideas and feedback. So far, it is going good. And he's busy as well. So that is, I guess, both good and not. But overall, it seems like it's going well. So the album has not been printed yet. So it's only a pre-order for now, so it will be out in August. So I guess then we'll see for real, but so far we're happy.
Okay. Well, I did my pre-order because I love 3 albums.
Thank you.
Okay, so one thing that you said is that you have previously a few proposals to belong to other labels. So personally, it's weird for me not seeing Discord on a big labels like Season of Mist, Metal Blade Records, Nuclear Blast, Century Metal Records, etc., because the label of the originality and freshness of the music of Discord, that's not common in the old bands nowadays, because you hear that old classic stuff, heavy metal stuff, thrash metal like 80s. So maybe into this proposal, maybe did you deal with a big label in the past, and what do you think of the revival of the formats like tape and vinyl?
Yeah, well, to take the first thing first, I mean, big labels, no, we have not had any big label interest, and so I guess you should tell them, right? That I think I guess our music is a bit too far out there for many of the bigger labels, and it's not what they're looking for. Maybe, I don't know, but I mean, Metal Blade, for instance, have shown zero interest. So I think it's not their thing, and that's fair. That's quite all right. The second question, what was that?
What do you think about the revival of the formats like tape and vinyl?
Well, I mean, I love the physical format. So for me, I think it's well, I've always been into it. I love vinyl, and I'm not a collector per se, but I like to buy the music that I like, and I like to listen on vinyl and well, a CD as well. I don't play that many tapes, but I can see why people dig it. So I think it's all good.
Okay, but now we'll speak about other things about into the well, until here we speak about the Discord, the discography, the new album, so the new label, this kind of stuff. This according to this of the band, but the heavy metal grow with different things around the world. As we speak about the vinyl and tape, the underground movement, the new forms of hearing music, this pandemic, and this kind of stuff. And starting this, the people thinks that when a band release and with vinyl and tape, especially here in Latin America, there are more underground bands when the band release in vinyl and tape. And according to these fans, the CD just fill the collections. That's not important. So
Okay.
according to the fans. So what do you think are the factors for the fans to stick to this underground metal concept, and where is located the digital platforms? Because now, if we compare with the 80s, the tape trading with these digital forms is the new forms to share music.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that has happened with the digital format is that everyone can make their music and make it available, which in a sense is good, right? That you can, even if you have no means, you have no label, you cannot make any records, you can still quite easily reach the world, which in one sense is a good thing and kind of a democratizing thing, really, that everyone can do that. But on the other hand, of course, it leads to a constant overflow of stuff, and mostly not all that good stuff, right? It's just there is so much that no one can take it in, and also what it leads to, at least for the younger generations, I think that when you're used to music being free all the time from everywhere, you perhaps appreciate it less, and it means less to you, which is of course for the bands and for the scene not a good thing at all. So that, I think, is where the physical format comes in, and for what you can call the true fan base, which I think they know that buying physical stuff is one way of directly supporting the band. That is one side of it. And of course, it's, at least for me, I value owning a part of history, so to speak, right? That this piece, what it was at this time, and I have it in my hands, and to me that is valuable by itself. And it is also something that you cannot easily reproduce. Like a physical item, I mean, when it was made in, let's say there were 100 copies made, or 1,000, or whatever. That's it, right? And to when you're a part of that, you're in a sense a part of the community that values and appreciates this release. And I'm not sure if I'm just rambling along now and not answering your question. So feel free to ask again if I didn't really catch up to what you were saying.
Okay. So one thing that you said is about the new forms of hearing music, because this generation, as you said, prefers to hear the bands in digital platforms. So with Tidal, with Spotify, Apple Music, this kind of stuff. And they love to do their playlist with 1, 2, 3, or maximum 4 songs into the digital platforms. They love to do. So what do you think about the albums doesn't have the same impact compared to the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, this is probably true, right?
Yeah.
So now, but on the other hand, I mean, now the streaming has a lot of the place that the radio used to have, right? Where you can have the hit singles on spin and whatever. And of course, there were always underground radios and stuff, and there are underground metal shows and all that. But it might be for the casual listener, for the listener who just wants something to listen to on their workout or when they're doing something or whatever, that the album has diminished in value, perhaps. But for me, not at all. I really enjoy listening to a complete work, and for at least for the good artist, right? There's a meaning to the way that the album is structured, and it is really a piece of art. It's not a product. It's a piece of art, and that includes the sequence of everything in it, the breaks, the dynamics, and of course the packaging. So a lot of that gets lost on the digital forms, of course.
Okay.
And what kind of surprises me about the digital platforms, like let's say Spotify, why don't they have a proper way to look into the booklet, for instance? Why is that not there? I mean, if you have an album on Spotify and you have this tiny little cover, why is it like that? I don't know. It would seem like the obvious thing to do for me, but well, it is what it is.
And what does band needs, according to this, or relating this question, and what does band needs to do to motivate or improve or the listeners of all songs in an album?
To motivate the listener to listen to all of them. Well, yeah. Well, that is a bit of a difficult question, because what gets you hooked on the first listen is perhaps not what makes you come back. Right, so several albums, you need to actually make an effort to listen through the whole thing, and then you get it, and then you like it more. So to catch the listener in that's a difficult question. I wish I knew. I wish I had the answer to that, but I don't think I do. Yeah.
Okay. Well, now we'll speak about other matters. So even the times change a lot in the world. Norway always is the first exporter of black metal style until today. So what do you think about this label in your country? Is benefit for the band or perhaps not?
I think these days, I don't think it matters that much anymore that Norway had and still has, I guess, a lot of really good black metal bands, but I think, I mean, black metal is international now, and it's the best bands, they come from a wide variety of places. So I think the Norwegian factor probably is not so relevant anymore, in my opinion.
And what do you think about the death metal didn't have great bands during the 80s and 90s until today too? Because I remember names like Cadaver and Molested in the 90s. And these last New Year's, you have Bloodbath, Obliteration, and you. I think Bloodbath, Discord, and Obliteration are the three most important bands nowadays into the death metal in Norway. So what do you think about the death metal didn't have this great impact?
I guess there was a period where death metal was down, so to speak, and not that many people were doing it, and it was perhaps not fashionable. I don't know, but you know, things they tend to go in cycles, and if you stick with it, it will come back. And I think today there are lots of great death metal bands, and of course you mentioned Obliteration and Execration. They are good friends of us, and they're always been great. But there are, I mean, from Norway, there are several other good bands as well, like Desolation Realm, for instance. I don't know if you know them, but if you don't, check it out. And yeah, I think the scene is pretty good. But why it was down for some time, hard to tell, man. It's the changing of tides, I guess, basically.
Okay. And one thing that motivated me to do this interview, because you did a lot of things into your music, since Doomscapes to this generation. And with this, if we speak about extreme metal worldwide, it is denoted that this style is one of continues to grow up with more and more expressions that not having to do with the 80s and 90s, because your music is for now. If I try to compare Discord with bands like Morbid Angel, like Dead, something like that, I never find I influence into your mix. It's very different way. It's 2010 music for our 2000s for now. So why this string music, or why you are you push continue to grow up with more creativity than all the styles? And all the styles I said, heavy metal, thrash metal, power metal, speed metal, etc., etc.
Why we push to grow?
Yes.
Well, that is it is to keep it interesting for ourselves first and foremost. To make something that for me to express myself basically, and to try to push my own boundaries and push my own frontiers and make something that for me is something that I would be proud to present to the world, and not just. I mean, there is value in sticking to form as well, and many bands are good at that, and they're good at playing retro thrash or whatever, and that's good too. But for me, for it to be interesting to play, it needs to be a bit fresh, and it doesn't. Well, it's no fun rehashing all the old stuff, right? It's I think the most interesting music or the most interesting experiences you have in art in general is when you experience something that you have not experienced before. So when you meet something that is new and you think, whoa, what is this, right? And it touches you in new ways. So that is what we strive for, and I guess it's not always successful, but when it is, it's nice, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Relating the last question, into these last years, where extreme metal is merging quite a bit with dissonant elements, with abstract things, progressive music, technical stuff, and sounds too, with bands like Jauha, Fold Limbs, Sepultus, Piron, Imperial Triton, Ad Nauseam, and you, and many more too. So, well, not many more, so five bands more. So do you think we can be talking about new extreme current style into the heavy metal in general?
If this is representing a new style in general,
a new wave of extreme music.
I don't know. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But if you compare, for instance, like you mentioned, the Imperial Triumphant and us, I don't think we are very similar. Even though we are both pushing boundaries in kind of different directions. So to me, I probably wouldn't think that we are the same, pushing in the same direction, even though they're doing cool stuff too. Yeah.
No, but depends. But depends, because when I hear both bands, I hear dissonant elements in both bands. It's naturally that both bands try to merge in something different. It's not the same, but have the same elements.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying, and I also think you're right that there are many bands that are pushing the dissonant envelope these days.
Technical, progressive.
yeah, right. And there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. So it remains to be seen, I guess, where it will end up. But in any event, the genres are always defined in retrospect after it happened. So people looking back and say, so there was this thing called death metal, and then suddenly this thing called black metal started to exist, but people didn't realize it until later. So I guess we'll see.
How do you see this strange style to do music extreme, or this metal extreme, during the next 10 years? Will it be a trend, or will we evolve more?
I think it will evolve more, definitely. there are always interesting places to go, new paths to discover and experiment. And I mean, the possibilities are infinite. So if you just have the imagination, you can always come up with something that no one has heard before. Even though it's easy to think that now metal is done and everything has been done before, but I think it's the opposite. It's the other way around. It's still a young genre, and there are many ways to go.
Okay, into this dissonant and technical subject, into death metal style, there are bands started this journey in the 90s, and with these certain albums that start this movement. So therefore, what do you think of these productions? And how do you describe these ones? Demilich, Nesfiti, Nespite,
Yeah,
Gorguts, Obscura,
yeah, yeah.
and Time Goal. Time Goal with both demos. Are speaking about the demos I don't know why this band, because they didn't have an album, but both demos are amazing ones to influence many bands. Blood Incantation, I hear Time Goal in your music. I hear,
Yeah.
wow, that's amazing. And yeah, what do you think about these three albums? What represents for you these three albums?
Yeah. So I can start with the one that is probably my favorite, which is Obscura. I think that one it was such a landmark. And really, when you talk about the dissonant out there elements, that one is really something of its own. And I just love how unconventional it is, and it's really still to this day, there's not much that sounds like that one.
Yeah.
I mean, many bands try to copy Gorguts, but really, this album, it's one of a kind. I think it's fantastic. So I'm still listening to that album quite often, actually, and I really enjoy it. It's great. And Demolik, the Nest fight, is it? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, actually.
I don't know too.
Yeah, that one is great too, with all its intricacies, and we actually got to share the stage with Demolik in Oslo some years back, and that was a great experience, and just being able to see these songs live, and Antti, he actually pulls off these vocals great live as well, and that was something that I was very curious about, how he would do this and if it would sound the same, and it does. It really does. Yeah. So yeah, and that, I mean, that album it's very different from Obscura either. It's for me a very different style. Even though there are I mean, these experimental and dissonant elements are in both, but taken in a very different direction. And and I mean, this points also, like we were talking about, right? All the ways, all the places you can go, and all the things you can do with this genre. I mean, even from that starting point, which in itself is a bit limited, right? With guitars and vocals and bass and drums, and still there are so many ways to exploit this, right? And then you were talking about Time Goal, and it's a shame that nothing more came of that, really.
Yes.
And I would have loved to experience that someday, but it's it's strange how things. I mean, how could something like that never be discovered? I mean, it's mysterious that they never really got to a bigger position than they were.
Yeah. So that is with dissonant and the technical parts, if we speak the death metal. But one thing that this band, for me, when I hear this new old generation on three albums, I listen and influence from Mr. Bangle, because Mr. Bangle creates that abstract thing into the music. And this for me is one of the greatest inspirations for for these years, because many bands dissonant, technical, progressive, and they put abstract music. Mr. Bungle is abstract music. I don't know, because
Yeah.
it's madness. So for you, how this Mr. or which album for you is the most influence to Discord? Perhaps Disco Volante, or perhaps the first two?
Yeah, that is a good question because to be honest, I haven't listened that much to Mr. Bungle as you might think,
Yeah.
even though I can clearly see where you're coming from, but um, I was listening to Disco Volante back in the day, but for inspiration for Discord, well, if it was an inspiration, it must have been subconscious, I think, because
Yeah.
it hasn't really been in my mind, so to speak. Even though I can understand why you would put us in that box,
Yeah.
because of all the kind of more weird twists and turns that come
Yeah.
up, and and
Yeah.
and the kind of jagged, jarred things, right? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if I have a better answer for that, actually.
No, no. Okay, okay. It's okay. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, well, Eyvind. Well, Eyvind, the sad times arrived at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one as I did. And really, really, really thank you for this interview. I really enjoyed three albums. I bought three albums, and you said you sent me two the last week. So this new album will be in my top 10, top 20 for this year, because I really love it. And take care,
Thank you.
and take care during this pandemic, and our best wishes from this part of the world. Any last words for your fans in Latin America and that get it reader? Perhaps someday we'll play here in a tour. Perhaps, who knows?
Who knows? And thank you so much for this interview. It has been my pleasure, and it continues to amaze me how people all around the world actually take the time to listen to our music. And I know that you need to spend some time on it to kind of get into it, and I'm very grateful that you do. So thank you very much. And if we someday could come to Latin America, I would love that. I've never been anywhere actually, so that would be really, really great, and I hope it happens. And so to all the people out there, we would love to come and see you someday. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Eyvind.